Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The Pickens County Republican Club would like to welcome you tonight and thank you for choosing to take part in the democratic process. The democratic process. We are not a democracy. We are a representative republic. What was it Adam said? What kind of government did you give us? And he said, I believe the quote was, a republic if we can keep it. Okay, we always start with a prayer, a quote in a prayer for me. I've gotten a habit of doing this quote in prayer because I like it and I think it's appropriate. From Abraham Lincoln, the first Republican. Sir, my concern is not whether God is on our side. My greatest concern is to be on God's side, for God is always right. I think Abraham had something there. If you'll join me in prayer. Dear Lord, please bless our community, our state, and our country. We pray that you will always give us the guidance necessary to always be on your side. Amen. And if you would stand with me for the pledge. Give everybody a chance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen to that. Be seated. I'm going to try to get through this little introduction thing here as quickly as possible tonight. We got several things to get to, and I don't want to waste any time. I do like to recognize any elected officials that are with us, other than the AG that's with us tonight. Donna Rainey is on City Council here in Easley. Is there anybody else that I'm missing? Oh, the sheriff. My grandfather would say the high sheriff of Pickens County. Thank you. Tommy is with us tonight. Okay. I'd like to let you know that a video of this event will be available on our Facebook page tomorrow. That's the Pickens County Republican Club. And if you'd like to follow us and keep up with what we're doing in future events, please do so. You can also find it if you don't like social media, you can also find it on our website, which is pickenscountytownhall.com. So you can find it at either place. Should be available tomorrow. So, two last little housekeeping things. There's just a few of us old 70-year-old folks that run this, and we do it out of our own pocket. So if you'd like to contribute, if you think what we do has value and you'd like to help us, we only use the money to do these events, like for renting a venue for bigger events and things like that. So if you'd like to contribute and help us, there's a basket up here at front. Feel no pressure to do it, but if your heart leads you that way, please do. There's also a legal pad laying there, and if you'd like to give us your email address so that we can let you know of future events, that would be nice too. We'd appreciate that. And we will never sell it, give it away, or use it for any other purpose other than to notify you of upcoming events. All of that said, I'm going to introduce the man you came here to see tonight, and then he is going to present the awards to our veterans with us tonight. We have several veterans here tonight. We want to honor their service. But first, let me introduce you the man you're here to see. Very short introduction. A.G. Wilson was first elected Attorney General in 2010 and is currently serving his fourth term. He seems to do pretty good at getting reelected. Mm-hmm. He earned his degrees from Francis Marion University and the University of South Carolina Law and has served in the National Guard, including being deployed to Iraq. I believe you are still Lieutenant Colonel? Colonel.
And graduated from the Army War College.
I'm sorry.
That should be on there.
Yep, it should be.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Got me again.
I got to get it in there.
Please welcome candidate for governor, Attorney General Alan Wilson.
Thank you. All right. Do you want to tee up what this is, and I'll read the first name. So I was asked whoa, that's loud. Is that good? Okay. I was asked to read off just a little bit of information that I was provided as I was walking in. There are several veterans who are here today, and I would like to ask if Lieutenant Colonel Tom Von Canel would come up here so that we could recognize his service. He is a United States Army retired founder of the Semper Fi Barn and lifelong advocate for veterans and Gold Star families. I would like to, the glass plaque here basically says, the Legacy of Service Award, Pickens County Republican Club Honors, Lieutenant Colonel Tom Van Canel. This is a small token of the club's appreciation for what you have done in your service to our country and our community. It comes also with a flag that has been folded to fit the box, so it may not look like a properly folded flag, but it was folded to put in the box. So on behalf of the party, I want to present this to you. Thank you for your service, sir. Thank you. Okay, my new... This is Charlie. Charlie Brewer, please come on down. Mr. Brewer is a Korean War Navy veteran who served 3 tours aboard the USS Tenji, I knew I had it was a 50-50, and longtime community leader in 6 Mile and Clemson. That was the only biography I had on you. I know that you have done a lot more than that, but we want to go ahead and present you with the same thing. The Legacy of Service Award goes from Pickens County Republican Club Honors, Gunnery Mate, 2nd Class, Charles Brewer. And I'm going to leave it in there so we don't drop it. Thank you for your service to our country and to this community. You want me to close out for you? Here, let's. Here, there you go. You put it up. You got it, Rick. Now, this one's a little bit longer biography.
This one is a little bit of a surprise. He doesn't know this is coming, so.
John Schaefer. Today, we proudly honor John Schaefer for his dedicated and distinguished service to our country. John began his military career in 1964 with the United States Navy, where he served until 1970. During that time, he completed guided missile school and specialized in weapons direction equipment, working with the Tartar missile system. From 1967 to 1970, he served aboard the USS Charles F. Adams, the Navy's first guided missile destroyer ever built. He achieved the rank of Fire Control Technician, Missile 2nd Class, or an E5, played a vital role in advanced naval weapons systems. In 1970, John continued his service by joining the United States Air Force, where he served until 1980. He was assigned to the Oklahoma Air National Guard and served as an active duty recruiter, attaining the rank of Staff Sergeant. Across 2 branches of the United States Armed Forces, John Schaefer demonstrated commitment, skill, and a deep sense of duty. His service reflects great credit upon himself, his units, and the nation he faithfully served. It is with the sincere gratitude and respect that we present this award in recognition of his honorable military service. Thank you.
And if his biography is a little more detailed than the others, that's my fault because he's like my brother, and I wrote that, so I know his history a lot better than anybody else would. And he is a founding member of this club and my right hand for 12 years doing all this stuff. I love him like a brother.
One more. Tom, Charlie, and John, I just want, and there's probably others in here who have served. Really, we truly appreciate you. It is, anytime I see veterans, I always thank them because I know firsthand what you sacrifice to serve your country. So we love you and we appreciate you. God bless you all. All right, so we'll go ahead and jump into it. First off, I have spoken to this club several times. I've been up there easily 4 times since last Wednesday. And so most of you have probably heard my remarks. So some of you, who has not heard me talk yet? Okay, if everybody else could just go. I'm kidding. When I talk about myself, you know, it's a hard thing to talk about, but I feel like before you know what I will do or want to do for you or what I believe, it's important for you to know a little bit about who I am. And so there's a number of stories from my life that had an impact on me. And I've told these stories just to kind of get me grounded in your mind as to what kind of person you would be considered voting for if you decide to vote for me for governor. First, I was born in 1973. My mother and father were, at the time, living in Texas. We're from South Carolina. When my father had gotten back from Vietnam, was training to be a pilot for the United States Army, came back to Fort Bragg when I was 2. He was tragically killed in a helicopter crash. My mother remarried Joe Wilson. Some of you have heard of him. He's a congressman here, but at the time he wasn't. He married my mother. They had 3 other sons. Raised all 4 of us, became commissioned officers in the military. All 4 of us were United States Army officers. One was a Navy guy. He got away. We all 4 of us have served overseas. I'm in my 30th year of military service as a full bird colonel in the Army National Guard at National Guard Bureau. Well, thank you. Thank you. And waiting to find out this summer if I get promoted to Brigadier General. We'll find out. But if I don't, I'll just settle for being governor. But anyway, in fact, I'm going to pivot a little bit from my normal remarks. I remember my first lesson in leadership. It was from a young captain when I was a young second lieutenant serving in the Army. I remember my first day, I was in the drill hall floor in front of my platoon. I was a firing platoon leader for an MLRS battery, as a multiple launch rocket system. And I remember looking at this platoon, and everyone in the platoon was older than me, except for maybe 2 or 3 people. My platoon sergeant was born like 2 years after my dad, and he was saluting me and calling me sir. That is a scary place for a young lieutenant to be. Of course, we all know lieutenants are 10 feet tall. I was good looking. Men feared me. Women wanted me. That's how lieutenants are. But you quickly get that chip knocked off your shoulder. I remember a young captain came up to me and he said, Lieutenant Wilson, I want you to get out in that motor pool and I want you to turn a wrench with those enlisted guys. I want you to have them teach you how to do their job. Crawl up under those vehicles, get dirty, get sweaty. When it's hot, you burn up with them. When it's cold, you freeze with them. When it rains, you get wet with them. When we go to the field, you're always the last one to go to bed, the first one to wake up, and the last one to go through the chow line. What that young captain was trying to instill in that young, brash second lieutenant who had so much to learn about leadership was that leadership is not about perks, it's not about privileges, it's about service. Serving those with whom you have a charge or a responsibility, whether it's through appointment, selection, or even election. And I learned early on as a second lieutenant that my job is not to reap the benefits of rank, but to serve those. In the military and in some organizations, it means putting their needs above your own. Maybe pushing them out of their comfort zone to achieve excellence or accomplish the mission. Whatever it is, it's about serving. And that has been a lesson in leadership that has stayed with me through my entire career. That young captain's now a major general. I think his cousin owns this restaurant, Jeff Jones. I don't know if y'all know him, but he's a major general in the National Guard now. My first day as Attorney General was 15 and a half years ago. I was 37 years old, the youngest Attorney General in the country. I always joke I still had Similac on my breath. Now at 52, I'm like, they let me run this place at 37? That's crazy. But I remember looking down that table and seeing all those senior people in my office, some of whom had had law degrees almost as long as I'd been alive. They were looking at me. They were calling me general. They were saying, sir, what do you want us to do? And I'm thinking to myself, I'm that second lieutenant all over again. I'm standing in front of a group of people who were better than me, smarter than me, more experienced than me, but looking to me for direction, for leadership. And like that lieutenant, I realized it's not my job to be the best, the smartest, the brightest. It's my job to recruit the talent, retain the talent, train the talent, create a culture in the organization, drive it to excellence, accomplish the mission. I learned that as a young officer. I learned that as Attorney General in that first day 15 and a half years ago. And so that's the kind of governor I aspire to be. I don't plan to be, I don't expect, rather, that I will be the best or the smartest on every issue, but it's the people that I will put around me. It's the culture that I will create, and it's my drive to accomplish the mission like I did as a young officer, like I did as a soldier. In August of 2004, I was asked by my battalion commander to lead a convoy from south central Iraq to the Turkish border to pick up supplies and bring them home. On the way home from that convoy, I was the convoy commander in the second vehicle. There was a violent explosion outside of my Humvee. My Humvee was thrown several feet forward. Shrapnel went through the vehicle. A wave of soot and smoke overcame the hood of the vehicle. It filled with dust, I couldn't hear as well because of the explosion. People were yelling over the radios. I had to give orders to calm people down to secure the kill zone. As I was giving orders, I looked at the Humvee in front of me that had already done a U-turn and had driven back into the kill zone. We called it that because you military guys know that once a vehicle is disabled, that's when they take advantage of the opportunity to shoot people. That did not happen that day, but they did not know that. These young soldiers drove back into that kill zone. I watched them crawl into a burning tractor-trailer truck literally yards behind me. Pulled 2 soldiers out, pull them back into their vehicles, and we left the kill zone to go to a forward operating base 10 kilometers away. It was at that forward operating base that I learned, as I walked around my vehicle, how close I had come to meeting my maker. The entire back of my vehicle was littered with holes from the shrapnel. It went through the entire vehicle, out the front windshield, into the vehicle in front of us, missing every soldier, including us, by inches. I remember how I felt about that day, and I tell you that story for 2 reasons, because I survived something that some people never survived. Maybe I should have died that day, maybe those soldiers should have died, but we didn't. We had a second chance. God gave us a second chance, and I don't want to blow it. And every single day since then has been me trying to be grateful for the second chance that I got that day. And I don't know what I'm supposed to accomplish on this world, but I don't want to leave it to chance. That's kind of what drives me in my career. That's one of the reasons I want to be governor, because I want to do as much good as I possibly can. The other reason that I'm running, or let me back up, the other reason I tell you that story is because when you face a mortality event like that, a life and death event, and you see soldiers face it too. In fact, the soldiers that I observed through the windshield drive into that kill zone, they did so expecting that they were going to be shot at. They climbed onto a burning tractor-trailer rig that they expected to explode, and it did seconds after we left the area. And they did without any regard for their own personal safety. These soldiers are barely 20, 22, I think the oldest was 24 years old, but they were in their early 20s, barely out of high school. And they had that kind of commitment to protecting their fellow brothers in arms. That kind of courage is inspiring. And when I think about the tough decisions I have to make as a soldier, as an attorney general, as a governor, it pales in comparison to what many people in this room have probably done in their careers and what those young men did on that day in August of 2004. The last and final impactful story I want to share with you is one that hits very close to home. About 4 years ago, we were preparing to go into the Murdaugh trial. You remember the Alec Murdaugh trial? Some of you have asked me about that today. And I was on the road a lot, but my wife was diagnosed with a very aggressive form of breast cancer. She had to undergo extensive chemotherapy. It ultimately led to her having a double mastectomy, followed by multiple reconstructive surgeries. The chemo wrecked her body. She has permanent neuropathy in her feet, all kinds of follow-on comorbidities developed. She's cancer-free today, thank goodness. But I remember one day, she came to me and said, "My hair's coming out in clumps. I don't want our kids to see this. Will you shave my head?" So we went on the back porch of the house, and I shaved her head with my children there. They were 12 and 14. And I remember watching my daughter's face as her mother's hair fell to the floor. And that is a traumatic, shocking thing for a young child to see when your mom looks like a cancer patient, because she is one. And I tell you that story because when I faced my mortality, it was a split second. You don't have time to think when something like that happens. You react. Sheriff here can tell you that you do drills until it becomes second nature, muscle memory. You're not thinking, you're acting. My wife had nothing but time to think about her future or possible lack thereof. And I tell you that story because that story, obviously her courage is a different kind of courage than the courage that the soldiers and I had, because she had to deal with it for many, many months, actually a year and a half. But I tell you that story because it taught me priorities. I want to be your governor. I am your attorney general. I love that. But those are just titles. Success is not enduring or endearing. It's the relationships. It's our relationships with our God, our faith, right? It's our relationships with our family, with our friends, with our community. We're all a community here, gathered around a common cause, a set of values that we all share, right? We're very different, but we have a value system. It's our relationships with each other. That is the priority. I believe I will win and become the next governor of South Carolina, but if I don't, my priorities are still right? Because the things that are eternal are what's important. Now, I tell you these stories because I wanted you to understand a little bit of the kind of man that I am. I'm a deeply flawed man. I'm not a perfect man, and I do not aspire to be a perfect man. Well, I do aspire, but I will fail in that endeavor. But I tell you that because I want you to know a little bit about me. Now, what kind of governor? Why am I running? I love I say this in all my speeches. Some of you have heard this, but I'm going to say it again. Have you ever watched a football game where your favorite team is playing not to lose when you wish they would play to win? Okay, for everyone who's shaking your head, I can't believe this. You're all Carolina fans now. Even the Clemson guy over here, right? Because Clemson doesn't do that ever, right? What I mean, that is kind of a joke, in all seriousness. But I have gotten frustrated when I'm watching a team when they're holding back, when they're embracing the status quo because they're afraid of doing something bigger because they might make a mistake. I see that in government all the time, where the government is playing not to lose when they should be playing to win, right? We don't go for the big. I'm tired of reading about all these great things that Florida's doing, right? And I understand they have a different constitution down there. They have different powers and authorities, but we can do more with what we have. And so I don't want to play not to lose. I want to play to win as your governor. The great athlete, the great NBA, greatest of all time, was, in my opinion, Michael Jordan. And I've said this in almost every speech, and I love this. I read an article about him one time where he said that he once failed his way to the top. What he meant by that was, everyone talks about the successes that he had. Everyone has the memories of him shooting beyond the three-point arc, making the basket at the last second, winning the national championship game. They remember the MVPs, the national titles, the feats of aerial acrobatics that he did to defy gravity. He says that's what they talk about, but they don't talk about the thousands of shots that I took that led to me losing hundreds of games in my NBA career and my college basketball career. He said, I lost a lot more. I missed a lot more than I made. But he says, I took the shot. I took the shot that people weren't willing to take. And yes, it missed the mark sometimes. It missed the mark lots of times. But I never stopped. And I kept fighting and I kept doing it. And it eventually became the greatest of all time in NBA basketball. That is kind of what hey, how are you? That is the kind of governor that I would like to be. That there are going to be times as governor that we're going to try to do something and we're going to miss. Whether it's judicial reform, tax reform, infrastructure, energy, education, pick whatever issue is important to you, right? The imbalance of power in our system of government is great. The legislature has an outsized level of influence on the operation of government. I want to recalibrate, rebalance that power. I think Carroll Campbell, as a governor, was probably the first governor in modern history of South Carolina to bring some balance of power to the three branches of government. And while other governors have chiseled around the edges, there hasn't been an attempt to do that. That is what I would like to do as your governor. Ladies and gentlemen, as your Attorney General, I have brought hundreds of legal actions against the Biden-Obama administrations. I have defended your constitutional rights hundreds of times in courts of law. I'm the only person in this race who actually risked their career protecting and defending President Trump and his agenda in a court of law. It led to me having 30-plus complaints filed against me seeking to take my law license that cost me $100,000 to defend. But I did it. They were all dismissed, but I had the courage. I took the chance. I've overseen the prosecution of thousands of violent criminals, child predators, corrupt officials, gang members, drug dealers, drug traffickers, a lot of them here in the upstate. But that was what I did as your Attorney General. It's time to turn the page. It's time to look to the future. We looked in the rearview mirror. I'm going to look through the windshield. As your governor, I want to eliminate the income tax. I want to reduce your property taxes. I want to lower your utility rates. I want to implement pro-business policies and laws that help businesses become more profitable, right? I want to have a kids first education agenda. I want to prioritize it. I want to reform our education system to pipeline kids directly from high school into the workforce. Not every kid needs 4 years of debt. Amen? There's so many things that we can do that I'm going to try to do, and then we're going to get it done. And we're going to get it done because we're going to take the shots that people aren't willing to take, and we're going to keep taking them until we win the games that we need to win. So I threw a lot of bumper stickers at y'all. I didn't go down any rabbit holes as to how I would do it. I figured we would reserve that for Q&A. But I'm here today looking at all of you as you look back at me. You are all my boss, every single one of you. And I don't take that lightly. I'm asking you to hire me to do a job. I do want to give one shout out to somebody. I didn't give a shout out. I think the most important elected official in the state of South Carolina is your local sheriff. Everyone knows what a sheriff does. Not everyone knows what a solicitor does or what an attorney general does or a senator or a house member, but everyone knows what their sheriff does. I've gotten to know this man over the last couple of years. Y'all have really good taste. I'm really impressed. I have really enjoyed building a friendship with him and a bond with him and his agency and seeing his leadership and how passionate he is about protecting his community and serving his community. Tommy, it is an honor to be your friend. Thank you for your support and your trust that you've placed in me. I will not abuse it. I will always cherish it. People like Tommy Blankenship all over South Carolina, sheriffs all over South Carolina. In fact, 80% of Republican sheriffs in the state have endorsed one candidate for governor. That was me. Not because I'm awesome, but because, you can say it, I can't. Because of the relationships we formed, and they know where my heart is, and they know that I will never stop fighting. I will never stop supporting them as they protect you. They trust me to help them protect you. And that is a calling I will never abandon. So I just want to say on behalf of all the sheriffs and to you personally, thank you for your support. Okay. I'm endorsing him for his reelection, if he wants it. With that being said, folks, let's go ahead and go to Q&A. I'm happy to take questions. Before you raise your hand and ask a question, let me say this. I do not have the answer to every question. I do not have the solution to every problem, okay? But this campaign is as much about me wanting, it's not just about me, I should say. It's not just about me telling you what I want to do for you as your governor. It's about me learning what you want your governor to do for you. Some of the best ideas I've gotten, I didn't get in Columbia. I got from standing in rooms like this, talking to folks like you, and listening with the 2 ears God gave me. And that is where some of the best ideas I'm running on. So if you want to be part of this movement, get in the boat and help me row. But if you got an idea, I want to hear it. But I'm happy to take your questions right now.
Going to Donna, we only have one real rule with these, or this is mine, not him. Civility. Ask anything you want to ask, but be polite, be civil. That's all we ask.
Hi, I'm Donna Rainey.
Hey, Donna.
In your interview with the Associated Press, you stated, "I'm going to doge all of South Carolina government from the bottom to the top and back down again. I want as much sunlight and transparency and accountability injected into the operation of the government." And then WRDW in Augusta, Georgia also reported that your priorities include cutting fraudulent and wasteful spending, including down to the local level. When you talk about increasing transparency and accountability across all levels of government, what specific oversight role do you believe the state should have over locally elected municipal governments?
Okay. So you gave a big question stem up there, but the actual question was, what role does the state government have with oversight over municipal governments? Okay, all right, let me see if I can back into that question. That's a good question. So one of the things that I'm going to do, so the government at the state level, we appropriate billions of dollars. In fact, I always say the three most expensive things we do: we educate, we incarcerate, we medicate, right? A lot of billions of dollars flowing through the state down to local municipalities. South Carolina is currently, the way it's structured, our oversight mechanisms are siloed. They don't communicate. They work independently of each other. They don't coordinate. For instance, you have the State Inspector General's office, the State Auditor's office. You have oversight committees in the House and Senate, as well as Legislative Audit Council, right? That's in a different branch of government, but the point is they're all siloed. One of the things we want to do is we want to reform and modernize government. I think those silos should be broken down. I think there should be coordination. I've often argued for a public integrity unit where all of the investigative and oversight agencies have a common unit where they overlap people in the same room working together, because sometimes what begins off as a bad government audit turns into a criminal investigation. But sometimes they happen in separate silos. They're not sharing information, which increases the length of time of oversight and an investigation. We need to break down those barriers. Number two, we are operating on technology that is probably 20 years behind the private sector. We could be utilizing innovative technologies like artificial intelligence, all right, that can do the work. It could take one investigator and turn out one investigator into 1,000 investigators in a matter of minutes. You can't replace human beings, but it can augment and be a force multiplier for their oversight efforts. Think about this, and that's just on state agencies. So implementing advanced technologies like artificial intelligence or blockchain technology, which is the underlying technology for like Bitcoin or cryptocurrency, right? It's an online digital ledger that every time it is transferred to someone, it gets baked into the digital code or the digital DNA. So what if we were to convert money we appropriate at the state level all the way down to the local school district or municipality on a blockchain platform? Every single person who touches it, it gets baked in. So if you take the money out of circulation, first off, you can't because it won't be converted into spendable cash. Secondly, people would be able to track it in real time. So we would know. So it would make it easy. It would be easier to search on a public index. So it would make it more. It would be more transparency and sunlight from appropriation down to implementation. The other thing I think I would do is we talked about at the state level, but at local levels, there's a lot of fraud, waste, and abuse down there. I think using the blockchain technology and AI is one start. But another thing that we can do is the personnel that we use to do these oversights. Last summer, I uncovered $20 million in Medicaid fraud. In a nutshell, the fraud happened for 5 years. No one caught it. And basically what they were doing is people would create fake LLCs that would be like mental health counseling services. The con artists would then go meet with doctors and say, do you want to be an independent contractor and provide mental health counseling to these kids in this community? And they would say yes. And they would get their information, and then one of the con artists had not hundreds, but tens of thousands of information of Medicaid beneficiaries that were children, and they would file fake claims against those children to the amount of $20 million. When we said, have you guys every time a red flag would pop up that this business might not be a real business, they would close it and go open a new business. Our team asked them at HHS, have you guys thought about going and physically visiting those sites, like that address, to see if there's a real brick and mortar building there? They said, we don't have the time. There's too many. Well, my investigator got on Google Maps, zoomed in on it, and the address of one of those fake businesses that was defrauding money and hurting children was the actual address of the regional office of DHHS in Rock Hill, South Carolina. It's that kind of bad government, right? It's that kind of, first off, we should have had the technology to catch it. Third, we should have had the personnel in there that either weren't lazy or incompetent to have been able to have acted on it. And for 5 years, they didn't until we caught it. Now we're prosecuting the bad guys, but the money's gone. About $20 million is a tax on all of us. It's that kind of stuff that I'm seeing at the state and local levels. So we basically inspecting what we expect of our municipal governments when we send them money. If we're using these technologies, we're going to make it very difficult. By the way, one of the many reasons I'm running for governor is when I have seen fraud or criminal corruption in government I've seen it at the municipal levels, I've seen it at the county level, school board, state level, we prosecute it. I prosecuted several dozen public officials in my time as AG. But here's the thing, I see lots of bad government, fraudulent, wasteful, abusive practices doesn't rise to a criminal level. You cannot sue or indict your way out of bad government, but you can replace personnel and implement policies and apply technologies to get rid of it. And so one of the Attorney General's tool bag is very narrow. The governor's is very broad. That is one of the reasons I'm taking that leap. Did I address your question? Okay. You told me earlier you had a question.
Let me bring you the mic.
I probably don't need it. Yes, you do.
Because if you're not on the mic, it won't be on the video. Well,
They're videoing this.
Okay. My name's Phil Smith, and the first thing I want to say is, being in, I don't know about you Army guys, but us Air Force boys were taught to stand up when we speak, so I think that gentleman over there's got an Air Force hat on too. Anyway, the second thing is, you were on the edge a little bit, but being a Tar Heel fan, when you mentioned Michael Jordan, you got my vote. No questions asked. Seriously, what concerns me, and you probably hear this all the time, is the roads. There's probably not 6 good roads in Easley, South Carolina, that's not full of potholes. State roads, county roads, city roads, they're absolutely terrible no matter where you go. So I talk to people about it. Well, we can't get any money. We can't get any money. I don't know how often they ask, but I would like, and you don't have to explain how you're going to do it, but I would like for you, when you become governor, to see if you cannot make it easier for the local people to get some funds to fix the roads. Now, I hear all the time that South Carolina, we have $2 billion in reserve funds, okay? I don't know why we need 2 billion, or we're waiting on another hurricane, but for those who are mathematical challenged, $1 billion is $1,000 million. So you could take half of that, and South Carolina could have the nicest roads in the country if we could make it. And another thing, when we do get some help from the state, and I was on 2 roads today where it's been paved, got holes like this. They didn't fill the holes up. They just paved the hole, you know. So the hole's not, you still, anyway, somehow or another, we need to make it easier for the local people to get money so we can have better roads and streets. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the question or the comment. First off, I knew you were a Tar Heels fan. That's why I threw out the Michael Jordans. Yeah, I'm kidding. So you said I didn't have to go into any detail. I will go into some detail because I feel like I owe it to y'all because it's such a big issue. Now, first off, there's a lot of things we can do. I don't know what all those things are yet because I haven't assembled a team, but I have an idea of some things that we can do. First off, I said earlier, we're not an innovative state. We're always behind. We're always following someone on doing something new and exciting, and I would like to be the technology state. I mean, obviously, agribusiness, that's farming and forestry, tourism, and manufacturing are the 3 big legs on the tripod stool, but I would like to have a 4th leg, and I would like that to be technology. I'd like to make South Carolina a technology hub and make it easy for technology firms to come here because I want to take advantage of the technology that is being developed. And of course, I'm going to come back to that in just a moment. Technology is key to my plan. But what I wanted to say is we're not being innovative in other ways, not just in the use of technology, but we're not being innovative in how we structure our government or how we take advantage of resources that already belong to us. Who is the largest landowner in the state of South Carolina? South Carolina. Did you say Clemson? You bucked into pressure. Now, state of South Carolina is the biggest owner. So when you guys driving down the interstate, all that grass between the interstates, that belongs to us. All the easements on the sides of the interstates, that belongs to us too. So here's a couple of ideas. One example, that median of grass, since we own it, it's dead, right? Let's monetize it. Imagine owning a piece of property that you never make a profit off of. Well, what if we were to monetize it? Create a public-private partnership, a privatized tolled inner lane in the middle of the interstate. By the way, it's optional. People hear the word toll, they run. I know you got this one up here. It's the only one left in the state. This is one in the middle of the interstate. You don't want to ride on it? Don't ride on it. If you do, you can get on it, go a little bit faster, and it reads your plate, and it charges you $2.25 or whatever. And let's do that on the interstates of South Carolina. And let's let our friends going from New York to Miami help pay for our roads. Our friends going from Charlotte to Atlanta pay for our roads. People driving not to South Carolina, but through South Carolina. Here's another idea. In addition to privatizing that middle lane and creating an express tolled lane that people can choose to use or not choose to use, how about this? Federal law prohibits the privatization of rest areas. But what if we, and other states have gotten grandfathered into this federal law, but what if we were to advocate to our federal delegation to go and remove those impediments to South Carolina? What I would like to do then is I would like to look at possibly privatizing a lot of our rest areas on the interstates to put convenience stores, gas stations, restaurants, and jack up the fee for the convenience of it exponentially, right? Now, I would not do this without the consultation of the Petroleum Marketers Association, the Convenience Store Association, because the last thing I want to do is put businesses that are already established and built on the sides at the intersections or at the off-ramps. But in areas where we're not in competition, you can pay an extra 45, 50 cents for a gallon of gas. You can pay extra to charge your electric vehicle. You can pay an extra $1.25 for a chicken sandwich. Those people driving through our state, not to our state, are going to help us fund our infrastructure. These are some of the innovative things that other states are doing, and we ought to look at that. What about leasing those easements along the interstates to telecommunication companies who are laying fiber optics, or energy companies laying natural gas pipelines? Rent that land to them to lay those gas lines for a 99-year lease, and let's collect some money and put it back into our roads. These are just a handful of things that I think we should explore And by the way, I would like to modernize and reform the Department of Transportation. Right now, the Secretary of Transportation that runs this multi-billion-dollar organization that's supposed to be doesn't even report to the governor, reports to a commission elected by the legislature with input from the governor. Well, why not make it a cabinet agency directly reportable to the governor? Integrate, vertical integration of the chain of command. We all know what that is. Makes the governor more accountable, more responsible. These are some of the things that we can do on the infrastructure front. These are some of the things that I'm going to champion.
Next question, and the reason I insist on the microphone is we are recording, and if you don't have the microphone, the folks listening to the tape later won't be able to hear your question. It's that simple. So thank you. Who's next? Well, got one over here.
Oh, Susan Aiken, this is going to be good.
Miss Susan, my branch cousin.
Mine's not really a question. I had this sticker on, and there's a gentleman in here asked me, "Who is that?"
Yeah, thank you.
And so I think maybe you need to talk to him about your lieutenant governor.
So, is it too late? Mike is giving a speech right now in Sumter. Otherwise, I'd call him and have him put him on speakerphone. If you look at my flyer here, if you don't, there should be flyers. You'll see a picture of Mike Rickenbaugh. The bumper sticker. I mean, I'm the only name that's going to be on the ballot in June, but I've already picked my running mate. His name is Mike Rickenbaugh. Okay, Mike Rickenbaugh is and by the way, there's 9 people running for governor if you count the Democrats and the Republicans. Only one candidate for governor has already publicly announced who his running mate would be. That was and I did that back in the second week of January. I did that for this reason. First, I wanted you to be able to judge for yourself whether you think I have good judgment. Secondly, I wanted you to be able to judge for yourself if you like Mike, right? Because he's traveling the state right now. He's giving a speech for me over in Sumter. Some of you have heard him. How many of you have heard him speak? Okay, so about 20% of the room maybe. You're going to get the opportunity to hear him speak. I'm going to give you the very short version of Mike. Mike, if you look at the picture, is a black man, but his story is very interesting because he was born in 1971. His mother was 14 years old, got pregnant by a 15-year-old. Her parents found out, the boy left, says you either abort the kid or put the kid in foster care, but you're not coming home if you don't do one of those two things. She chose foster care. He bounced around in foster care for a number of months and got adopted by a white family, the Rickenbaugh family. He always likes to joke, there aren't a lot of black Germans. In fact, I've got 100% of the black German vote in South Carolina. His wife and his 2 kids. But Mike was instilled with a sense of service, values, faith. He is a deeply faithful man. He and his wife, Cherise, opened up a automobile dealership in 2008, the best time ever to open an automobile dealership, right? Sarcasm. They survived the 2008 financial crisis by making the cuts and being efficient. They grew it into 3 dealerships, 2 in the Grand Strand, 1 down in near Hilton Head in the Bluffton area. And then 5 years ago, when Hugh Leatherman died, one of the most powerful senators in the Senate, he ran for office and got elected from the PD. And then he chaired the Joint Committee on Children, right? And he and I, by the way, he's a 20-year law enforcement veteran, having been a state constable and a game warden as a Class 3 certified law enforcement officer. So while he's not a Class 1, he's gone through the training and he understands what these folks do. And I wanted someone who loved law enforcement as much as I did. So Mike got selected to be my running mate, and he's an incredible guy. And he's the guy that's going to chair that Families First audit initiative. That's basically our DOJ committee that's going to go over to state government. And he's going to chair that for me, and we're going to build y'all a report, and we're going to report back to y'all in that first year on what needs to happen in South Carolina. But that's my running mate. So when you see Wilson Rickenbaugh, that's not some pretentious blue blood lawyer from Charleston. That is my last name and his last name. Sounds like a guy named Wilson Rickenbaugh, right? But Mike is my running mate, and I wanted y'all to know who he was, what he was about, what his background is about. No one else has done this yet. But again, I have so much faith in my running mate, and I have so much faith in our campaign that I wanted y'all to know up front before you go to vote who I was going to select. Did that answer your question? Yes, sir.
Coming right to you.
Thank you. You know my son Charlie Massayer, and I've got a 2-pronged question. One regarding parental rights, and the other one is how you as a governor would deal with the things that are going on in Washington regarding Congress, regarding the Senate and so forth, how, if you remember what Lenin said back in the early 1900s, give me your kids for 8 years and you'll see a new Bolshevik.
Didn't LBJ say that again in the 60s?
Exactly. And so as governor, how would you protect our local South Carolinian laws already? And you've probably already protected many of them in regards to parental rights. But nowadays, you have kids that can decide for themselves to mutilate their bodies and so forth. So how would you continue as governor to keep that Bolshevik idea that's going around, I believe, through Congress, through the Senate, through the Republicans, and through the Democrats? How would you keep that out of South Carolina?
So, first off, it is my foundational and fundamental belief that the parent-child relationship is sacrosanct and should be protected and defended at all costs.
Amen.
When I was asking Mike Rickenbaugh to be my running mate, I asked him, this is one of the reasons I picked him. I'm going back to Susan's question, but I'm going to dovetail it back into yours. I asked him, Mike, Lieutenant Governor has no power, no authority, no ability to do anything. Everything that the Lieutenant Governor has is what the governor gives them. I want to change that, obviously, but until we're able to change it statutorily, I have to be able to pick what your portfolio of issues will be. What do you want? Thought he would say infrastructure, thought he would say energy or education, you know, tax reform, tort reform, judicial reform, whatever the issue is, roads and bridges are. Mike looked at me and he said, I want my issue to be families. And that right there hit me like a lightning bolt. And I asked him why, and we had a long conversation. I'm not going to go into the whole conversation, but what I took from the conversation is we both agreed that the family is the building block of society. It is the molecular DNA of our world. And when the family is disintegrated and breaks down, everything else falls behind it. And so I'm going to come back from her back to your question. Families must be protected. As Attorney General, I have fought to protect and defend families. A couple of years ago, 2 years ago, we passed a law that said you cannot mutilate or inject children with hormones before the age of 18. They have to be of a majority age to choose to do that. Crazy, right? That is a very we got sued. Someone said that a 12-year-old should be able to do that. So what did I do? I defended South Carolina's law, and we filed and we went to federal court to defend it. Tennessee had passed a similar law. It was you may have heard Scarametti v. U.S., but Scarametti went all the way up to the United States Supreme Court. He's the Attorney General of Tennessee. Because their case went ahead of ours, I jumped in and defended that law in Tennessee because it was the same law here in South Carolina. And a year ago, December, we successfully upheld that law, which preserves South Carolina's law, right? Laws that prohibit boys from going into girls' locker rooms or showers or bathroom facilities in public schools or public spaces. We passed a proviso on that. I'm in court defending that right now. You all have gotten literature from one of the candidates running for governor, and she said that she's protected the state against it. We're the ones doing that. We're the ones doing that. We're the one in court. As Attorney General, I have been defending and protecting family. And I'm going to continue to do that as governor. I'm going to continue to do that by signing laws that promote the family, by vetoing laws that disintegrate the family, by implementing policies. But one of the things I would like to do is I would like to find ways to work with the foster care and adoption systems are woefully inadequate in South Carolina. And we have so many kids going through the system, and we can't get them placed with families because our system is overly bureaucratic. That's one of those areas that I was talking about earlier that we need to reform. A culture of life in our state is what I want to build. And I'm not just talking about protecting unborn children. I'm talking about protecting the children that are already born as well, and protecting the rights of the parents to raise their children the way that they want. Was there another component to that question?
Yeah, basically, if we don't have the right to continue to teach our children the way that they should be trained, for lack of a better word, then we'll see the government carry out what Lenin says. it'll be a Bolshevik forever. And we'll lose our rights. We'll get into our Constitution and change that. Next thing you know, we'll put up with people that come here continually illegally, because we're going to have a different administration in 2028, maybe and maybe not. But I was born in Indonesia, considered a Dutch Indonesian, and we, under President Eisenhower Indo-Refugee Act of 49 and 56, came here via the Netherlands, landed here in LA, and now that's another different country like California, because because my wife and I decided this is where we're going to settle here in Pickens County. But the question is, how do we keep the parental rights at the school level, at the college level even? You know, how do we fight that? And that was my next question.
Well, look, first off, not all the answers are solved by government. But what this government can do at the state and local level is we can, first off, y'all put the kind of people in government that will pass the laws that will protect the family. You put the kind of governor that will sign those laws and then enforce those laws vigorously. You put the kind of sheriffs in office that will defend and implement those laws at the law enforcement level. That is where the rubber meets the road. But at the end of the day, when the family unit breaks down, you know, there's a correlation between, you look at some of these single parent families and you look at the median household income of these kids 20 years after being raised by a single parent, or you look at their college graduation rates, you look at their, I mean, and a lot of it's broken down racially. I mean, like since the 1960s, right? The big fair deal that was supposed to make, you know, the $50 trillion we spent on the war on poverty, right? All that stuff. You've seen in the black community, it was hit the worst. The single parent rates are through the roof. Then it was the Hispanic community, second worst. Then the white community, and the best was the Asians. The Asian community has the lowest single parent rates, but they have the highest educational graduation rates, college rates, highest family median incomes, right? And by the way, correspondingly, it goes in reverse order. Then whites have the next best, then Hispanics, then blacks have the worst. And there's a correlation because, by the way, all the brackets got hurt. It just got exponentially worse in different subgroups. And so you have to protect that family unit. And I think that's the building block of society. Are there any other questions?
Mr. Schaefer.
I'm going to try to give faster answers too.
I'm going to work my way back as I go. I got a real quick one, just a short question.
Yeah.
Have any thoughts on redistricting as they've been working it on in Columbia today, as a matter of fact,
Yeah.
redrawing the lines? Have any thoughts on that?
Yeah.
It's legal and political, right up your alley.
So obviously I was in the lawsuit 2 weeks ago where the U.S. Supreme Court upheld Louisiana's redistricting. About 4 years ago, I was involved in the lawsuit that protected the right to redistrict the 1st Congressional District. The Supreme Court has said, and I agree with, you cannot draw districts upon racial lines. I'm against stereotyping and putting people in racial categories, but a state legislature can reflect the will of the people by drawing those districts politically. If you look in the Northeast, 40% of all the voters in the northeastern states vote Republican. They have 0 members of Congress representing them because the left has decided to reflect the political will of the majorities of their people by gerrymandering conservatives out of Congress up there. Well, we have the right to draw the districts in a way that reflects the political will of the majority of the people here. The Supreme Court allows us to do it. And so, I support the legislature's right to evaluate, to look at it, to see if it's possible to do. They're debating that right now. If they can do it in a way that doesn't turn our election system into chaos for this in the next month, because we're 32 days away. I want to make sure that every vote is counted in both parties. I want everyone. I don't want to suppress any votes. But if we can do that in a way that is that gets it done, I am totally fine with the idea of doing it. It can be defended in a court, and I will defend it. If they pass the map, I will defend it.
I'd like to do a follow-up on this gentleman's line of questioning for you here. A while back, President Trump signed into law the Family First Prevention Services Act.
The Family First?
The Family First Prevention Services Act.
Okay.
It's federal law. Do you know, has South Carolina fully implemented that? And if not, how soon can we?
I don't know the answer to that question. That's not in my office, so I don't have an answer for you. I would love to answer it. Obviously, as governor, I would probably get read up on it really fast.
As governor, I'd sure
Yes.
like to see you follow up on that.
Of course I would.
That's an important piece of legislation.
Yes, sir. There's a,
And we have a, well, okay, I'm over here, so I'll work my way back. Just introduce yourself.
I'm Rusty Mall.
hey, Russ.
Education. South Carolina's educational system is broken completely. They don't teach in the classrooms. We have, 3 grandchildren that go to Anderson County and Pickens County. And the classrooms that they go to are computerized. The teacher sits at the front of the classroom, and the only thing she does is punches a button. She tells them what, and their Chromebooks tells them what they're supposed to do, and the teacher does not teach. Reading, writing, and arithmetic, it's out. It's no more in our schools. As a governor, what can you do, or what can a governor do with the educational system that we have here in South Carolina? And I want to add one more thing to it too. That's sort of be a two-part question. But what can the governor do to eradicate a broken system and get us back to an educational system to where our kids can write cursive? They don't know how to sign their names. They print them.
My kids, when my son fills out a form, it says print name, he prints his name, then it says sign name, he prints his name again.
Yeah.
Because they didn't teach cursive for like 5 years, and they're
Right.
now teaching it again.
Exactly. And the other thing is, can we get the litter boxes out of our schools?
Can we get the what? Oh, the litter box for the people,
boxes.
the people who identify as cats? You
Yes.
talking
What is up with this? Why should a school
So,
system?
so real quick, I've already forgotten the first question. Can you bring me, but can we compartmentalize it so I can give tailored answers? Because right now I'm kind of all over the place. Bring me back to your first question.
Okay, what can the governor do to bring back real education to South Carolina?
Okay, a couple things. Can I start with my general view of education and then maybe back into the answer? Would that be okay with you? Oh, okay, good. In the mid '80s, my parents had 4 sons, all going through public schools. My 3 brothers were flourishing in public school. I was not. I was probably one of those kids who probably should have been on Ritalin, but they didn't know we didn't have it back then in the dark ages. And so my parents had to sacrifice to pull me out of public school, put me in a small Christian school that they could barely afford. And they put me in that Christian school, and I finished my educational career, in grade school and high school in a Christian school. My brothers continued on through the public school education system and flourished, and they were all president of the student body in 3 separate years at the large high school in our hometown. They all went to college, did great. I went on to flourish in a small Christian school. In fact, I graduated in the top 10 in my class. There was 11 people in my graduating class. But needless to say, I wasn't the best student younger. I became a better student later. But what I tell you that story to illustrate a point. If my educational needs are that unique to me and that individualized, and I'm growing up under the same parents and the same roof with 3 other boys, and our educational needs are that diverse, why are we treating all kids in the state of South Carolina as if their educational needs are the same? Like, I needed something else than my brothers, and we grew up in the same house, right? So that is a foundational tenet of my views on education, that I believe that as governor, I will fight to give parents the right and the opportunities that my parents did not have, to not have to sacrifice in a way to send your child to a school that can meet their individualized educational needs. So the money follows the child. Number two, when people hear me talk about being pro-school choice, I almost said pro-choice. I was like, no, I'm not. Pro-school choice, that does not mean I'm anti-public education. Because there are kids out there who don't have parents who value education the way that many of us in this room do, or all of us in this room do. These kids, some of these kids come from broken homes or homes, really no homes. They have to go to school, but they don't have the options. And if their parents did have the opportunity to send them somewhere else, they wouldn't. So we can't abandon public education either. But we have to start with that first. So if you're in a school district where these teachers are doing things like what you described, the parents need to have an escape hatch to take them somewhere where it's not doing that. That's part A. Part B is, how do you hold the people accountable in those school districts? First off, you have local elected school board members that hire the superintendents that have oversight over the principals. There is some degree of community or localized oversight through the political process that you as parents and grandparents and community members should exercise. It can't all come down from Columbia or Washington. You don't want that. But what Columbia can do and what I can do as governor, first off, I advocated for the superintendent of education to be an appointed position years ago, but the people rejected that on the constitutional ballot provision. So be it, okay? But if you're going to have a superintendent that's a state's top teacher, the superintendent of education does not even sit on the State Board of Education, which drives all of the curriculum for every school district in the state. Ellen Weaver has some authority, but she doesn't even get to vote. And she's the statewide elected superintendent on an 18-member board appointed by who? The legislature. Right? So you want more accountability, you want more authority. Ellen Weaver needs to be able to come into a school district and say, you're wrong. I'm yanking your money. I'm putting you in receivership. Right? And the governor, and I would advocate for that. I would like that to be under the governor, but y'all meaning we, the people, chose to have the superintendent elected separately. If you want to go back and revisit that in the constitutional amendment, I'm happy to advocate for that too. But the point is that we need to reform how we have oversight of what people do in those public schools that we still have. Additionally, in public schools and private schools and charter schools, we have in South Carolina what's called dual enrollment programs. I didn't understand what dual enrollment programs were until I had kids going through them in high school. And I love them because it's less money that I have to pay for in college. My niece graduated from her high school with 2 years of college knocked out before she ever walked across the stage in high school. Okay? So for kids that have the inclination and the aptitude, we should give them the opportunity to knock out as much of college as they can, or technical college. Or technical college. Now absolutely, because not every kid needs 4 years of debt when 2-year associate's degree or even a certification would suffice. Do you know what an electrician can make after 2 years of being certified? $150,000 a year. Within 3 to 5 years as a master electrician, they're making $300,000 a year. If they want to go back to college in their 50s and get a college degree so they can make $75,000 as a CPA, they can do that down the road. But $300,000 as a 25-year-old is a lot of money, right? I once asked, and I don't know who I was talking to earlier, might have been over here. Do you know how many kids we're turning away every year in technical colleges who apply? 4,000 to 5,000. 4,000 to 5,000 people are applying or getting turned away. I asked the question, why? Why do you think it was? It's because you can put 45 kids in an English class. You can't put 45 kids in a welding class. Half of them come out missing a finger. Or there's not enough equipment to train on. We're turning those kids away. A lot of them never reapply. We got to flip the script on that. I want to expand access to technical colleges because then you're pipelining more kids direct. First off, a kid graduating from high school with an as an electrician, as a plumber, as a welder, as a radiological tech, as a medical tech, as a machinist, right? Graduating, and then literally the day after you graduate as an 18-year-old, you can go to work making $100,000 a year. We're not doing that now. Now, we do have dual enrollment programs, but they're not universal and they are not uniform. We can change that, and that'll be a priority for me as your governor. Right over here.
Okay. My name's Melanie. The #1 industry in South Carolina is agribusiness. So as governor, You know that our farmers, they're suffering, they're sacrificing each and every day and all to put food, fiber, and fuel, for the people and all. So as governor, how will you assist and help farmers to be able to keep their farmland rather than these developers coming in? Because once that farmland's gone, it's never coming back. So how would you propose helping them go
Well, earlier in
forward?
my remarks, remember I said there was I wanted a four-legged table, but there's a three-legged stool. Remember what it was? Agribusiness, tourism, manufacturing. Agribusiness, if you combine agribusiness, meaning farming and forestry, it's the largest sector in South Carolina. It's got agribusiness in South Carolina is a $52 billion, has a $52 billion economic impact on our state every year. There are over 22,000 farms in the state. 90% are family-owned. These farms employ 270,000 people, okay? If we don't protect that sector of our economy, including forestry, okay, the price of groceries goes up. The price of timber, right, goes up, which means the price of housing goes up. Affordability for families goes down. Cost of living goes up. We have got to guard against it. There's a number of things that I'm supportive of. Now, I'm talking to farmers, I'm talking to foresters. I've already defended them as Attorney General in court. When Biden and Obama were passing the WOTUS rules that would have taken their land, we jumped in and we got it overturned. Like, I've been out there fighting these fights already. But for instance, we got to protect them. A lot of them are talking about the roads. I got one peach farmer says, I can't drive down the road, my peaches get bruised because of all the potholes, right? You don't think about that kind of stuff, right? And by the way, he's the largest peach farmer, I think the second largest in America. This is a big peach farmer here in the South. We produce more peaches than Georgia, and they're the peach state. We even have a peachoid in Cherokee County, right? I talked to another poultry farmer who said one of his poultry trucks got rear-ended by a lady who was drunk. And when she found out who the poultry farmer was, the drunk lady who rear-ended the poultry farmer sued them, and it cost them hundreds of thousands of dollars to defend against that frivolous lawsuit. Now, it ultimately got tossed out, but they still had to pay the lawyers. Where do you think the cost of that gets absorbed to? The cost of doing business as a farmer gets passed on to the end user. So fixing our tort system in our state to wean off those frivolous lawsuits, fixing our infrastructure in our states to have roads that don't bruise our peaches. I'm being petty right now, but that's what he told me. It's an issue to him. There are so many things that we need. And by the way, where does most of this agribusiness occur in South Carolina? In the rural communities. Now, you asked this follow-on question, and I don't know that I have the answer, but let me identify a problem in the question. Not that you had a problem, but what I have a problem. I will fight to protect that precious farmland and that timberland because we need it in our state. At the same time, I'm going to fight to my death for the right to handle your private property the way that you want. So if a farmer wants to sell to a developer and your local community has it zoned that he can do that and they can build, then that is a question of local governance, and I don't think you want the governor weighing in on that. Now, if there is a way, if you have an idea, remember I said earlier in my speech, get in the boat and row. I would love to, if you have an idea on how to address it. You have an idea?
I do.
Oh, throw it at me. I'm all in.
I think the way the infrastructure around here is, it's growing so much, but our infrastructure is not. I think anybody that buys a big plot of land should set aside so much of that land for agriculture, even if it's just for the people in that community to have. And every 100 acres should have 10 acres for agriculture that can't be developed on.
You're saying zone it.
Yeah.
So that would be a local issue. Like the governor and the legislature wouldn't come in and zone local land. I'm not against the idea. I think it's great, but I think right church, wrong pew.
I think concurrency ordinances locally would be great, just meaning that the infrastructure has to be in place before the development starts. When you go for the permit to build something, the infrastructure should have to be there to support it beforehand, not after.
Now, maybe there's something, and I don't know what it would be, but sometimes there's things that the state can do, incentivize local governments not to allow that land to be zoned away. So maybe there's an indirect way the state can help protect that land for those purposes. There's some type of incentive. I don't know what that looks like, but if you sit down with these folks and we all sit down together, we could figure it out. But again, I'm not against these ideas. I'm just saying is not everything needs to come from Washington or Columbia. Sometimes Pickens or Powdersville or Easley or wherever you're from, that is where you want the power concentrated, because that power is more accessible to you and more accountable to you locally than it would be in Columbia.
I believe this young man right here has a question.
How you
My
doing?
name is Jonathan Rez, and I have a question.
Hey, Jonathan.
So, how would you combat the issue with the 7-0H crisis as well as synthetic kratom, other known as gas station heroin? And as governor, how will you combat that and help the community and the public health?
Hey, is there a bill right now being debated on outlawing kratom or regulating it? Are you aware? There's a lot of conversation about THC and hemp and THC infused edibles and drinks and things like that. I know kratom is very dangerous. That might be folded up under it. A couple of months ago, I would say last fall, there was a guy who, this isn't directly related to kratom, but it's related to one of these hemp or THC infused products that a man ingested at a convenience store and then had a psychological breakdown in the car driving down the highway, this is Max Dorsey's, you remember that? You remember what I'm talking about? Max Dorsey's the sheriff of Chester, a friend of Tommy's and mine. The guy had a psychological break after ingesting these things, bit his girlfriend's face off, like a chunk of her face. Of course, they rammed the car up into the school parking lot, and the guy jumps out of the car and runs and busts out a window and grabs one of the the 5-year-olds and starts to pull the child through the window. The teachers are holding onto the kid's leg. SROs are being called. The guy pulls the kid through the window, has the kid, is holding the kid like this, and gets surrounded by it. They were able to wrestle the child away. But this guy doesn't remember any of this stuff, but it was because he was ingesting that stuff. That is an example of why I'm against this stuff being legalized or not so heavily regulated that we can't know where it came from. And so as governor, I would support the types of laws that would prohibit that stuff from being sold in an unregulated way the way that it is. Now, I'm not against if something can be regulated such that it can be safe. You know, like if you're getting a beer from a convenience store or something, that's different. But like something like that you can't regulate, I don't want it legal in South Carolina. I don't want law enforcement to have to go through what they went through. And thank God it turned out the way that it did.
Are we caught up on questions now?
I was going to do a kind of a closing.
Absolutely. She's got one right here, and then absolutely you can close.
I'm Cassie Walls. I'm a Greenville Tech. He's talking about technical education. And just to say what Russell was talking about, I agree 100%. I have my 19-year-olds, 18-year-olds coming into my classes that cannot read, can't write, on college level. In fact, I'll be lucky if it's 6th grade level. But anyway, I was going to ask you, what can we do to improve? Our technical colleges are no longer teaching the learning support classes, like English 098, 099. They're supposed to go right into English 101 and math classes, like right at college level. But the high schools are not preparing these children, by and large, to do that. So how do you think we should maybe edge that gap?
Talking about deal with the issue of high schools not preparing kids minimally to be able to go
and technical colleges now are not offering those learning support classes to get them up to college level. So there's a huge gap now. So what do you think that we could do about that? I know that's probably an Ellen thing, but.
Well, it is an Ellen thing, but it can be an Allen thing.
Okay. Well, I think we need an advisory committee that is comprised of technical college professors like me.
So I think that answer is going to require a lot more thought than just a short answer. But let me say this. I've learned something in government. When you grab a group of people by the dollars, their hearts and minds follow. If a school is failing to educate children, then you take their money away, you take that school into receivership, you get rid of them, and an example, Ben Navarro, one of the few billionaires we have living in South Carolina, years ago created the Meeting Street Academy. George Dean Johnson in Spartanburg replicated it, right? These wealthy families, And I remember years ago going to the Meeting Street Academy. There was a failing elementary school in North Charleston, 90% black, okay? So mostly minority school. The school was failing like this. Basically, the district comes in and says he wanted to do he'd already done a Meeting Street Academy elsewhere. He opened up a second one. They basically took over this school. They gave him the school, they took it over. And of course, the NAACP boycotted because they didn't like the idea of these people coming in, these outsiders taking their kids away. There's a happy ending, wait for it. But they got in there. They basically took over the school. They implemented different rules and policies. They ran it like the private charter school. It wasn't private, but it was privatized. And they ran it like a charter school. And there was another school literally like 2 or 3 miles away that pulled kids from the same neighborhood. So the two schools grabbing kids from the same pot of the same community. And then within 1 year, Meeting Street Academy scores were going like this, and the public schools were going like that. And when I asked the principal, this is a couple years later, by the way, he said a year after Meeting Street came in and took over that, the local NAACP chapter president endorsed it and had a press conference because it wasn't what they thought it was. It was helping their children. And so she bought into it. I asked the principal, how are y'all able to have the opposite direction effect with the same type of kids from the same neighborhood and the public schools are going the other way? He says, Alan, there was 3 main differences. Number 1, our teachers are at will. Number 2, the student-teacher ratio. We have 2 teachers in a class of 30 kids, whereas in public school it's 1 teacher in a class of 30 kids. So it's 1 to 15, not 1 to 30. Number 3, we get to choose our own curriculum. No one can make us. He says those 3 things foundationally and fundamentally changed. And all the teachers are happier there than the public school teachers. They don't mind being at will. But they got to choose the curriculum. So why not incentivize organizations like that when a school is failing? Ellen comes in, takes them into receivership, and then superimpose someone who isn't incompetent, right? So that's a very broad answer to a very specific question, but it's a start, yeah. By the way, how did the Pickens Raceway? We didn't get an answer on the Pickens Raceway yet? I was pitching you a question. She was over here on her phone. I was wanting an update on the Pickens Raceway.
Oh, what's going on with it?
You're now one of Alan's angels. You know that, right?
I am.
Have you seen the picture of us?
I'm very happy about it, yes. The developer is
Isn't that the coolest picture?
The developer's not happy about that photo, but it is a great photo.
So what?
Exactly. So Monday night, 6 p.m. at our county administrative building, we will have a meeting to discuss plans on Phase 5, which does surround the track. So they are still pursuing, the developer is still pursuing the development around the speedway, and eventually maybe the phases that do tie into the speedway. So if you guys are available to come Monday night at 6 p.m., great place to get information. We will be taking a vote that night. So if you're in support of the speedway, you need to show up and you need to speak, okay? So
Thank you for having me.
yeah, absolutely, we appreciate it. Oh, hi, I'm Kelsey Crooks. I'm Pickens County Planning Commission Chair. District 5, Fort Easley. So yeah, thank you. And we appreciate Mr. Wilson's support on the Speedway. It's been a very uphill battle. There's a lot of passionate Speedway fans in our community, and so it's quite a divide, but we really appreciate it. It is such a cool photo, guys. It really is.
They became Alan's angels. It's like a Charlie's Angels. Wasn't that cool?
That was fun.
We took that picture and then someone AI'd it for us. Anyway.
Did I answer the question? That was, okay, all right, great.
All right. Let me give I want to give you a moment to plug it. That's what.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
You're welcome. All right, I'm going to go ahead and close up, and I've got to get back to Columbia here in a minute. I want to thank all of you. Some of you have heard me talk a number of times, and you still came out to hear the same record. I tried to change it up a little bit, but I appreciate all of you for giving me the opportunity. It means the world to me that you took time out of your busy night to come see me. Folks, I am asking everyone in this room, every last one of you, for your vote. I tell everyone I meet, and my team has heard me say this 1,000 times, if you don't vote for me on June the 9th or June 23rd, it can't be because I didn't ask you. I'm asking you. I'm asking you right now. Now, for those of you who have already decided to vote for me, thank you. I see you in here. Thank you. For those of you who came here tonight and are undecided, I want to ask you, all I'm asking you for is the opportunity. give me the opportunity to earn your support and your vote and your trust by June the 9th, 32 days from now. If you came here tonight and you're with one of the other candidates, and you wanted to spy on me or whatever, that happens all the time. That's fine. I'm cool with it. But if I'm not your first choice candidate, we get to the runoff on that Wednesday, the 10th of June. If I'm in the runoff and your first choice candidate isn't in the runoff, can I be your second choice? I'm serious. Can I be your second choice? I'm not going to promise you that I'm going to be a perfect governor or that I will get everything right or that I won't make mistakes or that I will do something that you disagree with. I can't make that promise. I'm a flawed, fallible human being, okay? If you're looking for perfection, if you're looking for someone that you'll agree with 100% of the time, will never make mistakes, go to one of the other candidates running, because that is not what I'm selling you. What I am selling you is this. I promise I'll be accountable to you, I will be accessible to you, and I will never stop fighting for you. I'm not running to be your pastor or your savior. Someone else has those jobs, all right? I'm running to be your governor. And so I would be honored to have your vote on June the 9th. Thank you for giving me the opportunity. And remember, this is a job interview. You're my boss, not the other way around. So that's how I see this. God bless you.
I'd like to add something unsolicited to what you just said. John Schaefer and I have been doing these town halls for over 10 years, 70, 80 of them. And it's easy to get someone running for office when they're in the campaign mode to come and do a town hall. They're campaigning, they're asking for votes. But I've known you now for at least 10 years. And this has got to be somewhere between 6 and 8 town halls we've done together. And he answers the phone every time. And he didn't just come when he was running for office. He came when I asked him and said, would you please just come and talk to us and tell me what's going on with the Attorney General's office and talk to us. And you did. Yes, and listen to it. I mean, it's not an endorsement. This is just the truth. You are the most accessible, easy to get a hold of, easy to get to come, and you never gave me the runaround. Oh, I'll call you back. I mean, honestly, you always returned my calls, and you always worked out a date. Every time I've asked you, you've said yes, whether you were running for office at the time or not, and I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Not everybody does.
Thank you. Can I say one thing?
Sure.
20 seconds, I promise. If I didn't say this earlier, the Wilson Rickenbaugh, this is Alan Wilson for Governor stickers here right now. This is like giving me money. If you put this on your car and you drive around for the next 32 or 49 days or 47 days, this is like advertising. This is a big deal. Putting a sign in your yard or in front of your business, but a sticker on your car, your family's cars, it means a lot. It helps us out. So taking one of these would be helpful. So thank you.
One more thing, a couple of little things, one more big thing, one more round of applause for our veterans, in the room and out. You guys are the reason that we can stand up here and do this. First Amendment is the First Amendment for a reason, and without you guys, we wouldn't have it. Thank you. Last little thing. If you leave something, if you can, it's in your heart for the waitress that's going to come in and clean up after us. That little girl is going to come in here and do it by herself. One little girl is, I say a little girl, young lady. One young lady is going to come in and clean up. And if you've ever had a family member or somebody you loved that worked as a waitress, you know they earn those tips. So thank you. And please follow our Facebook page and stay in touch, and we'll let you know what we're going to do next. Thank you very much. God bless all.